So that's a good pick. You get the corner. I got to go bold, right? I got to go bold for this.
Yeah, she's got some nice.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron. Make sure to like and subscribe if you are out there on YouTube. And also rate the show 5 stars everywhere that you get your podcast. Just search for Unbearable Sports and you'll find us everywhere. Apple Music, Spotify, you name it, just search for Unbearable Sports. How is everyone doing? It's been a week since we've done a show. Just lots of stuff going on during this week, during the bye week. I wanted us to definitely go through all of the mid-season awards and start talking about where kind of the Bears are at. Because for those that were here at the very beginning of the season, we started talking about Most Improved, Rookie of the Year, Brent Urban Award, Cody Parkey Award, all sorts of different awards. And I kind of want to talk about what we thought we were going to be at and kind of who we were giving our predictions out to, how far away we are, and also just kind of a little update to say, hey, where do we think we are right now? But let's see, we got Shy Drax out there saying, what is good? Hope you're doing well. And yeah, we could talk a little bit about the Crosby and Garrett stuff because I was debating on doing a separate show for that, but I could talk a little bit about that as well because it's the thing that's blowing up all over the place. So we definitely have to talk about that. And also, Taco Man, my friend, hope you are doing well. So yeah, let's actually go right into it then, Shy Drax. So before we get into the actual awards and just this episode, we just like to kind of have fun and just talk about what some of these awards might be. But let's talk about all the different rumors that are going out there with Crosby, with Garrett, and other things like that, because there's actually a little bit of traction, not necessarily from the Bears. I think that the big thing is, like, a lot of people, and we know this on YouTube, if I post something that says Bears trade rumors with Max Crosby and put a big thing, or if I say like Max Crosby trade rumors heating up, I'm going to get tens of thousands of views on that, right? Like, it's just the way that YouTube's going to work. Everyone's curious about it. They click on it. But here's the actual scoop, right? Max Crosby, with anything that goes on with rumors, what we always like to do is just kind of break it down as like, does it make sense for the other team, right? Because we're fans. We want the best players imaginable. So a lot of us want these players. First off, if they're open for business to deal Max Crosby, and if the Browns want to deal Myles Garrett, yes. And at a minimum, those would be at least 2 first-round picks. I saw one channel say, like, would you trade for Max Crosby for a first-round pick? It's like, yeah. And if you don't, you got some serious problems, because these are 2 of the best defensive players in the entire NFL. So just think of it just like the Khalil Mack trade. You're giving up at least 2 first-rounders and most likely a second as well. So you're giving away a lot of different draft picks for these players. But yet again, going back to where are these rumors actually coming from? The source of them. Max Crosby was inside of a locker room saying, hey, he just wants to win. He's showing frustration. He's angry about this. Now, would he actually be traded? Would he actually be dealt? To me, he's a Raider. And if they want to get rid of him, by all means. You don't see players like Max Crosby that literally play every single snap. And he brings this extra fire. You want him. He gets in the head of the quarterbacks. That's what he is. So definitely, if you could. I also was looking a little bit at the salary cap, because that's also another thing that a lot of people don't look at the numbers of, like, guaranteed money. And with the guaranteed money, you could, in theory, take on their deals, and they could, in theory, trade those players as well. It didn't seem too outrageous, too egregious for them to actually be traded when it came from a dollar's perspective, right? It's kind of like, I know when people were saying it was a quote-unquote rumor, it wasn't a rumor about DJ Moore being traded. It was just people saying, who could we get rid of? Or like, who needs a wide receiver? But you could never trade DJ Moore because he just signed a brand new deal. So with Myles Garrett, with Max Crosby, with Myles Garrett, the whole rumor aspect of that, also, I believe it came from Adam Schefter, or either Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport. It came from an actual person saying, hey, people are calling about Myles Garrett. Now, yet again, the context of it. Does it mean that they're actively shopping? No. But yet again, I'd be calling them up too, like, hey, yo, your team stinks. We'll take your best player. We'll take, what will what will it be? Because also, too, Ben Solak of ESPN brought this up, too, saying we saw this with Amari Cooper where they had all this money later on in his deal, and so they dealt him without having to kind of pay the piper, so to speak, when it came down to actually paying that contract. So, yeah, that's where people are calling, people are seeing, are they open for business? And that's ultimately where these rumors are essentially coming from. So that's the big piece. And yeah, I agree with Shy Drax out there. I could definitely see the Lions trying to make a move like this because Aiden Hutchinson goes down. You want to bring in a defensive end. Another person too, honestly, from the Lions, I could see them getting Zadarius Smith. Makes a lot of sense because also too, how much money do they have and how much are they willing to give up for a player? That's something that I know it's not the sexy pick for the Lions to get, but Zadarius Smith might actually be the guy they ultimately end up with. Someone who's a veteran, very good, reliable type of a defensive end. But yeah, I think overall, if those two edge rushers are available, then by all means. But also, another piece too, it was reported on NFL.com, Nate Davis and Khalil Herbert are potential people to be looking out for with being traded. Yet again, Khalil Herbert not really serving a purpose in this offense. More than happy with that now because I was always hoping he could play a bigger role. He's really not. So yeah, it makes sense to try and get a draft pick. And also Nate Davis, who we'll definitely be talking about on this award show because he's somebody that I just think, like, yet again, he's a starting offensive lineman. He's not fitting with the Bears system. Wish him the best of luck. He's a healthy scratch and trade him away. And even when Matt Eberflus was asked about this today, I wish I had the audio, but ultimately it's like, yeah, he didn't flat out say it, but the way that he answered it was like, he didn't hide it. He didn't hide it very well. He's like, yeah, things happen. And it's like, yeah, what does that mean? It means they're probably most likely shopping, like it truly is, they're shopping Nate Davis, which makes sense, right? You're not giving him an opportunity. See you later, right? And let's see if it works for him somewhere else, but ultimately, we're not going to be paying that. So that's ultimately what it is. What's good, Philip? Bear down, my friend. And Taco Man saying any offensive lineman, not that I've seen. Offensive lineman, that's always a tough spot to be trading for because especially like with offensive tackles, really the only good ones you would ever see is someone that they're just not getting an actual deal done or anything like that. But yeah, I guess the big boys, like offensive linemen, I'm trying to think of like when's the last time we saw like a big offensive lineman really get mad and like not want to resign it or anything like that. But yeah, they just seem to be very humble. But yeah, ultimately, not really any offensive lineman that I've seen out there except Nate Davis. So ultimately, but Philip's saying I wouldn't give up a first for Myles Garrett. We got Montez Sweat for a second round pick. See, to me, Myles, though, is just like head over heels. Like he is ultimately one of the best best defensive players that's out there. I think that the big piece, though, is you're paying this is the whole reason to have that rookie deal. But I think ultimately, like, yeah, if they're there, sure. Like, sure, by all means. Because yeah, I think that should be good. And when you look at the Bears roster the cap situation for next year and years after that, they can afford a deal like this. And honestly, when you look at those deals for the actual players, it's pretty cheap seeing what like Nick Bosa goes for now from a yearly salary perspective. But yeah, if you had to re-sign them and then add that extra deal on top, that's going to be a little bit more. So yeah, something's going to happen. Exactly. I agree with Shy Drax. Poles is always looking after something with this, but yeah, good topic to just kind of start the show out. But let's get going then with the awards. So yet again, we're not giving these out. We just want to kind of recap what we thought about the awards and kind of where we're at, who were the nominees, and then who did we ultimately go with, or I guess ultimately I went with as my prediction, and we'll just kind of see where this is kind of at. Because first off, let's talk about most improved, where last year the winner of that was Jalen Johnson. And then at the beginning of the season, we had a whole bunch of people that I threw out as nominees because I was throwing out, well, Caleb, basically anybody on this offensive line, and Caleb could be out there because, just getting better every single week. Then other people that we were throwing out there, Jervon, Kyler, Tremaine Edmonds, Tyreek Stevenson, Brisker. Then some other players too that I was a little bit on was Tyler Scott and also Cole Kmet. But ultimately, when we're looking at this right now, we went with Gervon Dexter at the beginning of the year. But now, would we change that now later on? So I'm actually kind of curious for people out there, who would you give, who's your prediction then? Who will be the most improved by the end of the year? By the end of the year. And if you want to say mid-year as well, feel free to as well, because right now there's a newcomer. And for those on YouTube, you've seen the thumbnail. You already know who I'm going to say. But Walker, DeMarcus Walker is someone I think is definitely in the candidates now, because before I was like, okay, it's DeMarcus Walker. He's going to play like DeMarcus Walker. They moved him to the inside, right? And that's something that we've been calling for. We've been clamoring for. They started moving him to the inside, and now we're seeing a lot of that production that he had in his final year with the Titans. So it's funny. Like when you put him in his actual spot, you start to see that. He was also a little banged up last year. And to me, he's a new person that's on the list for being a potential most improved player. But even then, I kind of even want to bring up Cole Kmet. He's playing great. He's playing phenomenally. He's been the most consistent offensive weapon in a team full of offensive weapons. Cole Kmet is the most consistent, right? Like DJ Moore, he has ups, he has downs, but Cole Kmet always seems to be getting his. And I think that also too with Cole Kmet, it's cool to see because we brought in another tight end. He was someone in the offseason that was not really getting involved in this offense. And Cole Kmet's just doing better and better and better. So, yeah, let me know who you think is ultimately going to end up as the most improved by the end of the year. And Ron, my friend, claws up, bear down, hope you're doing well. But let's talk about this a little bit, because now my nominees that I'd say, like if I had to update the nominees overall, Caleb to me is still up there. Just with what he's able to do, Caleb might actually be my favorite now, because we're kind of seeing what Gervon is. And I still think Gervon's having a great season. It's not taking anything from Gervon Dexter. It's just like Gervon, we were hoping would be like this absolute elite defensive tackle. He's just a really good defensive tackle right now, which is more than fine. I'm more than happy with this for sure. But Caleb's looking good. Like Caleb, I think week after week, as long as he can kind of continue that improvement, I think he could be the most improved. So that's my feeling overall. Also, Judah, what's good, my friend? But yeah, TJ Edwards again. TJ Edwards was good. Oh, Taco with Bill Murray. Yeah, that is another thing. I actually got to add him on one of these because I was like going through the mental ideas in my head of like the players. And I'm like, oh yeah, forgot about Bill Murray. I need to add him because I'm like, I had a feeling I was missing somebody. But I'm just going to throw him out here. Bill Murray. But let's see. Ron's saying, I'll paint my nails FGB. Love it. But let's see who else we got out there from it. But yeah, I think Caleb for sure. Then Kyler was another person that I'm like, he's still looking a little bit better, having more of a consistent season. And then I even put Tremaine Edmonds. I had actually put Edmonds over Edwards because I thought Edwards was phenomenal last season, but Edmonds was not good. And now I think Edmonds is having a better season than he did last year, even though the stats might not be the same. I actually don't know where his stats are at, but the tape, Edmonds is looking a lot better. And not to the same year as like 2 years ago with the Bills, but he's looking like a replacement level player. He's looking like a good, solid player. But I think if we're talking about most improved, I'm going to I still stay with Gervon, but I'd say if I were to say it right now, overall today, I'd say the most improved player has been DeMarcus Walker just because of what he's been. Like he was a non-factor and now he's turning into something. But yeah, him and Gervon, I think, would be the winners right now. But then with Caleb, I think, is the better long-term option because hopefully, fingers crossed, he can truly be that guy overall. So, but also, yeah, too, most improved, Bill Murray could be that because literally he was a nobody. And now we're seeing what he's able to do. We'd have to see more Bill Murray for sure in order for him to be out there. But Bill Murray, that he might be the Brent Urban. We have to bring him out for those. So that's the thing. Also, Chris, what's good, my friend? But let's flip over to Rookie of the Year, where last year we gave it to Darnell Wright. And then this year, it's pretty simple. We have only basically 5 rookies that we could choose from. Caleb, Rome, Karan Amagaji, Torrey Taylor, and Austin Booker. Have not seen much of Karan. Not seen much of Rome, unfortunately. Torrey Taylor we've seen every now and again. And Austin Booker. And also, I forgot my graphics. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Now you can all see the beautiful gold. Ooh, right? The Rookie of the Year. There we go. The Rookie of the Year award. Who should win this? And let's talk about the Rookie of the Year because it's one guy, and that's Caleb Williams. Austin Booker has not been what we saw in the preseason when he's going against starters, just not the same, obviously. And Torrey Taylor has some ups and downs with, good weeks. But yeah, this is easy. This is clearly just Caleb. It's going to stay Caleb. It's always going to be Caleb with everything that's going on, unless anything else happens. Unless Rome all of a sudden takes off. But this is Caleb's team. This is Caleb's offense. Like, this is ultimately his award. So, yeah, nothing else more to say about that. But let's talk about the Brent Urban Award, which I think is the most confusing award for a lot of people. Because Brent Urban, we have to remember him, the defensive tackle for the Bears, defensive end, defensive interior player back in 2018 that he had his electric guitar celebration. And I want to say this. I will say that it's more about like that backup. It's truly a backup award. We gave, and here's the little asterisk. We gave it to Andrew Billings last year, even though he's technically a starter, just because it's like he was so under the radar. He's always just been the nose tackle type of piece. But a lot of this is the backup that really kind of shines overall. Because our candidates were Khalil Herbert. We even threw Velus Jones out there like, hey, is he going to do something where it's, yet again, it's this kind of wow play where you just go, wow, like, oh man, he just made a really great play. Then we also threw out Gerald Everett, that was actually my prediction, but we'll talk about him next for the Cody Parkey Award. That has not been good. We even threw out Ryan Bates being just more that utility guy, Jack Sanborn, Terrell Smith, Jonathan Owens. A lot of these players not panning out, not being great impact players at all. But then we get into Austin Booker, Darrell Taylor, and then now the new ones that I want to kind of throw out as candidates. Roschon Johnson, maybe an Elijah Hicks, maybe Matt Pryor. Does he technically constitute as a backup that now is basically the starter? Someone who flies under the radar where now we're not really talking about him too much because he's not Nate Davis, right? Doug Kramer, and then also now I just had to add Bill Murray. Because now we're talking about who's somebody that is kind of this under the radar player nobody talks about, nobody gives love to at all, that you go, oh, forgot about that. And that's where Bill Murray might be a perfect person. But also, I agree with Jigsaw. Because looking at this, I'm going like, I like the defensive linemen, because the defensive linemen make the big play. Darrell Taylor is definitely someone that could be this award winner, because backup that we literally just traded for the week before and comes out with 2 sacks. He needs to get a little bit more production. He kind of had that good first week. He's still been good. He's still been creating disruption, right? Even though he hasn't really recorded that same production, the guy's still a very, very good, fierce defensive lineman that we have out there. So yeah, leave him on the outside. He's been playing real well. Elijah Hicks, we'll just have to see how many games he'll have to play. How long is Brisker actually going to be out? Hopefully not too long. So hopefully we don't see Elijah Hicks that much anymore. But Hicks came in and played well. I threw Doug Kramer out there. I don't think that he's played well, but he's just been someone that we all enjoy just seeing as a fullback, right? We enjoy seeing the big man out there. Production, not really there, but it's fun. It's fun. But I also threw Roschon Johnson out there too, just because of the pass protection, the difficult yards, like between the tackles, between the guards, that he does get as well. Kind of that hard-nosed grinder. So to me, the wild cards, because now I don't expect Gerald Everett to redeem himself. I hope he does. But Gerald Everett has not looked like that guy like I was hoping for. Darrell Taylor, Roshan Johnson, Bill Murray. Those are three players that I think could really kind of be that player for essentially this award. Backups that contribute to the team. But maybe Bill Murray not so much anymore just because of, and maybe that's also why they're trying to get rid of Nate Davis. Hey, we got to make room for him because Ryan Bates we want to bring up. So maybe they do something this week because, hey, if Ryan Bates is ready, I could see Ryan Bates taking Matt Pryor's job at that right guard spot because, yet again, center, way too many moving pieces out there. So ultimately, that might be the ultimate play that they end up doing. And then we'll see more Bill Murray because otherwise, with Ryan Bates coming back, Bill Murray now goes lower down the totem pole because now you have Ryan Bates, you have Matt Pryor that is going to be taking that. And ultimately, it seems like then maybe Bill Murray might stay as that left guard. So lots of different questions, but Darrell Taylor, if I had to update it, would be the person that I think would potentially win this. That's my feeling. But yeah, I agree with Shy Drax. I like the rotational players that we have. I think that's the thing. These rotational players would have been starters for us about 2 years ago. So that's a good problem to have for sure. Definitely a good piece. Like we said, like what I always say, a bad starter is a good backup. And I feel like we have a lot of those players, like a Jonathan Owens, even like an Elijah Hicks, and now we have Matt Pryor. Same thing. But now we have Matt Pryor starting, unfortunately. But hey, he hasn't been that bad, so good stuff. But speaking of bad, we got to talk about everyone's least favorite award. But honestly, I think as Bears fans, we secretly love this award. It's the Cody Parkey Award, where we just get to yell at our most disappointing player. So who is the most disappointing player this year for the Bears? And last year, it went out to Chase Claypool and Nate Davis. We did two for the price of one because Chase Claypool left a little bit early. But this year, we predicted Nate Davis being a two-time champ for the Cody Parkey Award. And he is so far. I don't know if there's anyone else. Yeah, like I agree with Shy Drax. It's easy. It's Nate Davis. This was someone that we were hoping could have a good year. And we talked about this with the other pieces, with the other players too, that we're like, hey, maybe he could even be a most improved because he was a good player at Tennessee. And now he's just not been out there for us. But some other people that we actually threw out there, my list. Velus was my number one that I threw out. And I see Velus out there because, yeah, Velus haven't seen. We're hoping we could do at least something with them. And I think like with Velus, you feel bad, right? You just feel bad about it. 3rd round pick. He's got all this talent. He's the ferret king. And now we just kind of go, right? But DeAndre Swift was another person that I actually threw on my candidates list. But he's doing well now. But DeAndre, I will not give you credit until the end of the season. maybe he's watching like, who's that guy that had the negative stuff about me? Like, I love that DeAndre Swift's doing well. We paid the money for him, but he was someone that was at least out there just because someone who has benefited with good blocking. Continue doing it, right? And he's looking better. He's looking great ever since they had the talking to with leadership with Shane Waldron. So hopefully we don't bring him up at all when it comes down to this, right? Because he started like literally one of the worst starts to a season a running back has had. But also another person, this was our number 3. And I remember some people saying, really? Because he came off of like a 98-yard game. And I said, he didn't look like a wide receiver out there. And that was Tyler Scott. I still think that Tyler Scott, I don't think he would win, right? I think ultimately it's going to be Velus or Nate Davis. Like that's going to be the thing. But if we end up trading Nate Davis, then we'll probably do a 2-parter of who actually was the person. But I brought on Tyler Scott as someone because, yet again, not seen him. I know that there was a lot of hope for Tyler Scott. A lot of people wanted him. A lot of people really like Tyler Scott. And I like Tyler Scott. But it's that, yet again, former running back playing wide receiver. He still just hasn't gotten it yet and just might need some more time. And ultimately, we just have not seen him out there. Instead, we've seen DeAndre Carter taking snaps for him instead. Then also our other candidates was literally just everyone on the offensive line. But I really don't think any of them have been that disappointing. Like ultimately when you look at it, because Braxton's been Braxton. Darnell Wright has not like taken a giant leap that a lot of people were hoping for. Tevin's been solid. He started off a little poorly, but has kind of gotten it together. And Coleman Shelton has played like a slightly below average center. That's who he's been throughout his career. Like nothing disappointing about that. Like that's just who he is. But the other person that I want to bring up was actually Zach Pickens, because Zach Pickens was someone, yet again, Javon kind of looking good. Pickens has been banged up this entire season. We have not seen him at all. So another candidate that we'll just throw out there, but two other people that I want to bring up, Gerald Everett, because yet again, Gerald Everett was the person I had on the Brent Urban Award. He's been a good tight end, and we have just not seen him. And it's not even just not seeing him. We haven't seen good play from him as well. Like he made one good catch, broke some tackles, like what you would hope out of Gerald Everett. But really, he was one of my favorite signings actually, because he's been consistent. He's been a consistently good tight end, and we're just not seeing that. So that is someone who's been disappointing so far midway. Hopefully that corrects. Hopefully they can put it together for this next season. But let's see what everyone else is saying. Muck saying Velus or Nate. Yeah. Taco saying Velus Davis or Velus. Yeah. It's a toss-up. I think ultimately they're going to be the winners at the end, because hopefully then trade Nate and then Velus is that. But yeah, muffed almost every kit. Yeah. But it's just so hard to beat Nate Davis. But yeah, Everett is another one that's Jigsaw saying. And then, yeah, Shydrax ever since Brad came down on Swift. Yeah. I am actually curious because, like he said, he has the internet, and I had a gigantic thumbnail that literally just said like advanced metrics hate DeAndre, hate Swift. Like it was very point blank. Like, so maybe he did. Yeah. And then Muck saying he thought Braxton would get better, but he hasn't. That is a good point, right? And I think that's the key thing with just expectations. I even threw. Right, I think this would be overkill, like if he actually won. But I know some people just have some disappointment with Montez Sweat with how he's playing, because we saw what he did last season. He's not going to win the Cody Parkey Award. Let's just make that clear. But it's just, as we're talking about disappointment, as we're all airing our grievances, he's someone that just hasn't looked the same, and I know it's a little frustrating. So that's another person I just wanted to at least just bring up, not officially nominate or anything like that. But when we just start talking about players that aren't necessarily playing like we expected, he's someone that comes to mind, because I think a lot of us, we had him as the defensive MVP. He just hasn't been playing that way. He hasn't been playing like the heart and soul, which is actually kind of a good thing because everyone else is playing really well. But it's something that we just didn't see. Like he just isn't playing at that same level. But other than that, I think that about covers it. And Khalil Herbert might be someone too that I like. Khalil Herbert. I was hoping he'd do something, but yeah, that's enough that's enough negativity. That's enough disappointment for one show. Let's flip over to the offensive MVP. Where last year we gave it to DJ Moore because he literally did everything. And now with offensive MVP, we're talking a little bit about who should actually get the offensive MVP. And to me, it's still Caleb. Caleb was the person that we nominated, like officially we're like, that's the prediction, was Caleb Williams, because it should be the quarterback. And it still should be the quarterback. And I still feel comfortable with this because our other nominees were DJ, Keenan, Swift, and I even threw Braxton Jones out there just because it was like, if we get a legit left tackle, kind of like what Muck was talking about, like if Braxton could have put it together and we have like a true stud at left tackle, like that's what you need for a rookie quarterback. He hasn't been that. So ultimately your weapons though, your wide receivers, your running backs have been good, but truly, even when you saw the running game not go, they were still leaning on Caleb. Caleb is being leaned on as a rookie quarterback, where even though that they have great players, it's still Caleb. Like it's still ultimately his offense. Maybe I'll have to redo this because it hopefully moving forward, it just becomes like offensive MVP not named Caleb. And we just have that. Like, that would be great so that we don't just have it as a quarterback-driven award. But ultimately, Caleb, yeah, we all agree. So let's go over to the defensive side, because also we have a bonus award. I didn't create a graphic for this, but the great Johnny PayPal that used to be on this show, he always had the Mr. Winter Award, which we'll talk about later. It's basically the person that gets who we think is going to be the best, like kind of wake up during the winter. But we'll talk about that next. We first have to talk about the defensive MVP. So the defensive MVP for us last year, like we said, was Montez Sweat. So this year we said, hey, it's probably going to be Montez again, right? Like, let's do this. Even though I was still like, he should regress, it still should be him. Like, come on, he's got to be it. But I still think he's a candidate, still think he can kind of put things together. But when you look at this, it's kind of nice because, you go Edmonds, you go Edwards, you go, okay, so are these linebackers great? Well, I wouldn't say that they're the lifeblood of this defense. But then you go to the D-line, you're like, well, Javon's been good. And Walker's been good. Billings has been good, right? Like, they've all been good. And then you go to the secondary and you get into Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson's been, yet again, back-to-back really great years. And I see Kyler out there. Kyler's been really good too. And Stevenson's the only one that you're like, no. Stevenson's been up and down. Brisker's been good, but wouldn't put him in the defensive MVP candidacy. But someone I wanted to bring up and give some love to is Kevin Byard. And just throw him out as a nominee, because I think that this is anybody's award. And I think when you look at what Byard has meant for this defense, it's huge. Because I remember this last year where we were giving up big plays after big plays with Eddie Jackson back there and Brisker, more of a box safety. We know that he likes to lay down the lumber. But Byard's been great. And I just want to throw him out there as definitely a candidate, because I don't think that, especially someone that's a veteran, we would even consider him. But he's been a very, very good addition. But I think ultimately, when I bring it down to all these players and I think about who's probably the lead of all of this, is the person that's was literally the best player last year at his position. And I think this year is kind of given a run for people's money again. I agree with Jigsaw. I think it's Jalen Johnson right now. When you break down defensive MVP, the person that's been the most consistent, most impactful, like when we watch the tape, Jalen just locks down his guy. Plain and simple. And when you have that person that literally can just take and remove somebody from the game like Jalen does, that is so valuable. That is so incredibly big time. And I think everybody else, the good part about this defense is everybody is playing well. And I think Byard, I know in the PFF grades, he's like a top 5 safety. I think Byard's been really good, but just the value of a true lockdown corner like Jalen, it's ultimately his game right now. So if I were to switch, it'd probably be Jalen right now. But hopefully Montez, he's got the bye week. Hopefully he gets some magical treatment that they do probably over in Europe, and he's able to get his foot better. And then now we're able to see him kind of back to normal with everything like that. So now, before we get to our favorite player, I want to bring this up. Like I mentioned, the Mr. Winter Award. And I don't have a graphic. So I want to throw this out in the chat. It's just, who is your Mr. Winter Award? The player that will wake up in the winter and have a better second half of the year. Send. I want to know what y'all think, because I think that this is a very interesting award. So the person that you think is going to honestly be like the most improved for the second half of the year. So who do you think that would be? As I think I kind of go back to the people that haven't achieved as much, like Gerald Everett. Can he hopefully find a spot in this offense? Do I think he will? maybe not. But also, you can even throw out Caleb Williams, just trying to get better and better and better. And maybe even throw out like you could even throw out DeAndre Swift, maybe he just continues going at that, or even like a Ryan Bates, who's literally being called up. So he could be the person that wakes up in the winter, that comes out of, or the opposite of hibernation, and comes out during the winter and ends up being that bear that we need. That could be definitely someone, or Montez Sweat that we were just talking about, someone that wakes up that can be that impact player. But I want to nominate somebody, because I think that this person, when we watch the tape, he's somebody that comes out that I think just is so impactful, that we've seen get open, just is not being thrown the ball. I see in Peril out there saying Keenan Allen. It could be Keenan. Like, it really could be Keenan. Someone that now, actually, I really like that. Keenan actually is a really good piece, because we saw that connection coming out with Keenan Allen. But I was actually going with the other receiver, Rome Odunze, because Rome just really has not gotten the ball yet. But we're seeing him beat his guy when he's called to do that in his routes. But I definitely think it could be one of those wide receivers for sure, Keenan or Rome Odunze. And speaking of somebody that came on late with all this, Broski, my friend, what is good? Nice to see you out there. We went through all of them. Now we're on the ice. I like the Iceman Award that Shy Drax is saying. I kind of like that. And he also said Sweat. Sweat, I think, is a good one too. Let me just jot some of these down. Sweat's a good one. Rome's a good one. Keenan's a good one. All these players could be somebody that wake up in the winter. And I think that's what's exciting about this team too, is there's this still feeling of untapped potential, because this is still a new offense, especially on this offense. And then you look at the defense and you go, yeah, Montez has been better. And so he should be better than what he's playing at right now. So you should expect some just positive regression, so to speak, regression to the mean. But ultimately, I think that this is good. And yeah, Jigsaw also saying DJ, like, yeah, this offense just overall, wide receivers, they definitely can still wake up, especially if Caleb's able to take that next step and look better and better and better. So yeah, so that was a pretty cool one. Yeah, what's the top? Yes, most improved second half of the season. That's the topic. So yeah, that's ultimately the person that I think can wake up in the second half of the season, be that most improved in the second half of the season. But let's talk a little bit about our favorite players, because this is our favorite award to give out. The favorite player of the show, the thing that every Bears player strives to have, because we talked about it last year. Our favorite, and actually, wait one sec, in Peril saying, can it be coaching because it might be Shane Waldron? That's another good piece too. I'll put that on favorite player on hold right now. Like, it could be Shane Waldron. Like, yeah, he legit has been awfully good, and coming into his own so far. And yeah, this offense could be looking a whole lot better, a whole lot different. And hey, if Mike McDaniels from the Dolphins comes available and Shane Waldron gets a head coaching job, I'd be fine taking Mike McDaniel. But also too, let's see. And then yeah, Broski's saying Darnell Wright. That's another good one too, because yeah, he's got all this talent. As soon as it clicks, I feel like when he gets that click, that's when he's kind of going to take off. So let's talk about our favorite player. This is the player that when they make a play, you get up, you scream more, you get more excited, you get more pumped up over any other player that's out there. It could be the big names. It could be the small names. It could be anybody. Who is your favorite player? See Shy Drax out there. DJ Moore is his favorite. Yeah, the whole Santa thing that, yeah, you're a little icon for sure. But yeah, Caleb is getting fun. Judas saying Swift is his favorite. And then Broski saying Komet and Brisker. It's kind of a in between. Yeah. Broski saying if he had a daughter, he'd want her to date Komet. Yeah, he's just that type of a dude. And that's where, like, Komet, he was our favorite last year. The way that he blocks, the way that he plays, everything. And he's got his own podcast too now, and you kind of see his personality. He's just a stand-up dude for sure. Jigsaw saying Bajan. I know a lot of people would actually have Bajan out there. And also, I mean, there's no shame in Bajan, right? Like, he's an awesome dude. Like, you see him out there in like the Hard Knocks, everything for sure. But then also too, Rome, Taco saying Rome, Ron saying Khalil Herbert. I want to see Khalil, man. I agree. Dennis saying Jaden waiting to see if Brisker's playing. Yeah, and yeah, Bajent too. Got some Bajents out there. And Farrell saying Roshan. Yeah, I love me some Roshan Johnson. I definitely love me some Roshan Johnson. And yeah, we're getting more Bajents out there now. But favorite players, my nominees that I had before were like Cole, Rome. I threw Tevin out there, but Tevin I think has actually kind of gone down a little bit now on the list because he's someone that we were all like hoping. And I brought him up as like a wild card because someone that we love to see resign. We love it when a player resigns with the Bears. But it's kind of that iffy gray area. Jack Sanborn's always been one of my favorites, but he's just not playing that much anymore. Austin Booker too. Like Austin Booker, not seeing as much out there. Like in the preseason, we all loved him. He's actually my prediction to be the favorite. But then also Jervon, he's fun to watch. Kyler Gordon's actually been one of my favorite. My son loves Spider-Man. So when I say like, oh, that's the Spider-Man guy, he's like, oh, that's him. Like he loves the Spider-Man guy with everything. And Kyler, when he makes a play too, it's kind of like that Brisker thing because Brisker's another nominee. Like when Brisker and Gordon make a play, it's just that bang factor, that pow factor that he brings to the table. So, so yeah. But I also see so many people saying Bajent. Shy Drax's wife says Rome. Yeah, Rome's a good one. Like Rome is a legit good one. I don't know about everyone else out there, but whenever Rome makes a catch, I always do that Rome Adunze thing that Caleb did, right? Like I get excited for Rome. I like Rome. Yeah, and let's see with this too. got some Lionel Richie in the comments. But let's see too. Brisker, Torrey Taylor, someone. DeMarcus Walker, I actually low-key am loving just because he was so bad before. But now he's really kind of coming to his own. I even threw Andrew Billings out there. Because I know like we love ourselves some Andrew Billings on the show. He's so under the radar that I like him as well. But yeah. Yeah. And I see so much Bajan out there. Hey, for the Bajan fans out there, yeah, when he's in, he's got a 100% winning record right now whenever he gets snaps. So he's got that. And Broski saying Jaden Daniels looking like Lionel Richie. Let me see, actually. I actually want to look at that. Lionel Richie. Jaden Daniels. He's got the stash with it. I don't want to see Jaden Daniels' injury. I want to see Jaden Daniels. I mean, he's got really white teeth like Lionel Richie. Like, he's got, like, perfect teeth like Lionel Richie. The stash a little bit. Hey, all I know is I hope we whoop up on him. So, I also do love Edwards. That's right, Shy Drax. I definitely do. But yeah, we got the good part is we went from the most disappointing to our favorites that are out there. I think if I were to give it an edge to someone right now, I got to say I'm kind of giving it to Kyler Gordon. I really enjoy Kyler out there. I enjoy how he plays. And like I said, my son loves him. So I kind of got a sweet spot for him with that. But, you know, Cole Kmet is always still one of the favorites out there. So, and then both Lionel Richie and Jaden Daniels are the lead for the Commodores. But yeah, let's see. Lots of good stuff out there. Bajent. Now we're getting to the Bajent side of things. Oh man. But hey, ladies and gentlemen, and Shy Drax at the very end, favorite podcasters, Brad. I appreciate that, my friend. Hope you all are doing well. And then also next week, we're gonna I think it's trick or treating over here. So I might have my get up on. I'm growing out the stash for something that I might be going as. So just started growing out a little bit more. So I'm trying to like shave up because I can't grow a good full beard. So I'm just like shaving different things to make it look halfway good. So I'll kind of have this old pirate goatee combo for a little bit right now. So we'll see. But yeah, we'll see out there. Dennis saying Brisker, the human missile. That would be fun, especially with Jaden out there. Like, can you imagine Jaden Daniels just like popping out there, just Brisker slicing him in half for sure. But yeah, definitely the Jack Sparrow thing I got going on right now. So, but yeah, make sure to tune in, like and subscribe if you're out there on YouTube. Also, if you haven't already and you don't want to see the Jack Sparrow stash and goatee right now, you can always just download the podcast everywhere you get your podcast. Link below in the description. Search for Unbearable Sports and you'll find us everywhere. And with that, have a great next couple days. And with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we are out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair and